So just a little bit about me. Those of you who don't know who I am or this is your first time here, my name's Ryan Wunderlich. I've got about 36 years of experience using AutoCAD across multiple industry segments. I'm currently one of our senior support specialists here at IMAGINiT. If you have a case or a problem with your AutoCAD software or pretty much any Autodesk software, there's a good chance you'll be talking to me when you call into us. I've taught AutoCAD as a certified instructor, and I'm currently teaching AutoCAD, Civil 3D, a multitude of other products. I've had more than 15 years of experience in CAD management. I've done 8 years in cruise ship building. I've done 5 years in civil survey landscape architecture, and I've pretty much done everything except aerospace design. So with that, and then I have a bachelor's and a master's degree. So what we're going to talk today, here's our agenda for today. Our agenda, we're going to be covering the new features. So the new features that are included in AutoCAD 2022 is the count feature, the trace feature, the share feature, and the push to Autodesk docs feature. In addition, we're going to talk about the 4 enhancements that they've added to AutoCAD 2022, floating windows, the redesigned start tab, some graphics performance enhancements, and then we're going to talk about the big elephant in the room, the customizable installation. All right, and I'm covering that one last because I believe that one's going to be the one that's going to be the most questions and answers and most friction. So getting started here, we're going to talk about our new features count. So this allows you to quickly and accurately count the instances of block objects in a drawing. You can insert a table with the count data into the current drawing. Note, it will not show attributes in the table. You still need to use the data extraction for that. It simply will show the number of blocks with the same name in the table. The count feature offers visual count results and more control over the count criteria. Select objects in model space or use the count palette to count specified objects in the current drawing. You can also use it to count all block objects in the drawing. When you're in an active count, the count toolbar displays at the top of the drawing area. That's this right here. And the count toolbar includes number of objects and issues along with other controls to manage the counted objects. So the count palette will come up and the count detail icon will change depending on whether the current count contains errors, right? You can click on either the question mark for information or you can click on the yellow alert triangle to open the count palette and view more details. So this little triangle here, or the blue circle with the eye, displays count criteria, general properties, of counted objects, and any user-defined block attributes and parameters. The red or the yellow triangle here displays count criteria, but it will also include overlapping blocks, exploded blocks, renamed objects. The count check system variable is useful here, and we're going to talk about that. So 2 things to note. The count list will include blocks that are nested within other blocks. That's very important to know. And then the other note here is depending on the number of blocks and unique block names in a drawing, this can affect the performance significantly. I actually had a drawing where I tested this. That drawing had 17,433 block instances, of which 17,433 block instances, of which 16,000 were all unique names. And it took over 5 minutes, and it probably took closer to 10 to process, and everything I was doing in AutoCAD was absolutely brutally slow until I closed the count.
Hey Ryan, can we just stop for 1 sec?
Yep.
Hang on, I've got a couple of people who are saying that they can't hear you properly. Can I just have, I want to know, is it an individual problem or is it, can somebody type in? Okay, I can hear just fine. Oh wow, okay.
Yep.
All right, okay, so I would suggest maybe the people that are having an issue hearing us, I'm so sorry to break this up. I just wanted to make sure that if it's a one-off, just log out and come back in again, and everything should be fine.
Yep, and in some cases you may need to reboot if your audio driver had an update this morning when you logged in and you've got the little window, you know, when you're down over here, let's see, let's just pull this up here. If you see a little graphic down here that looks like a computer monitor with a little orange dot, you may have gotten an audio update. I get that quite often where my audio disappears entirely until I've rebooted.
Okay, I'm sorry to bother you. Okay, and I've moved over to my headset, so hopefully I'm not sounding garbly goop either.
Yep.
Okay, sorry, go ahead, Ryan.
Okay. So again, the number of blocks that you have in there are going to significantly impact how this feature works. So the new commands, you've got a count command, count selected objects, highlights counted objects in the drawing, count close, closes the count toolbar, exits the count. Count field creates a field that's set to the value of the current count. Count list opens the count palette to view and manage counted objects. Count list close obviously closes the count palette. Count nav next zooms to the next object. Count nav previous zooms to the previous. And count table inserts a table containing the block names and the corresponding count. If you select objects to count, it reports it as a single item. We're going to talk about that, Alan. Just bear with me on this. So change command field now allows you to create a multi-line text object with a field that can be updated automatically as the field value changes. It really hasn't changed other than it can now tie into the count. That's really the only thing that changed with the field. The new system variables, count check controls types of errors to check in the count, and I'm gonna show you that. Count color sets the highlight color. Count error color selects the highlighting error color. Count error number displays the number, etc. Count number displays the number of the current count. Count service controls the background index, and the count palette state reports whether or not the count palette is open or closed. So I'm going to give you a brief demonstration here of count. Right, so you're going to see that I have a number of objects in here. Those of you that have ever done, the AutoCAD Advanced or the AutoCAD Fundamentals, you may recognize this building. So we come up here to view, we find it right here for count. We start the count, and what it's going to do is it's going to pop open the count palette right here, and it's going to show us that we have 50 diameter circular table, 37 chairs, 16 cubicles, 6 desks, and 6 desks long. You're going to notice that I have 3 triangles here. The other thing I want to point out to you is that the PC here has a little blue marker saying that they're attributes. So when I highlight this, you can see that I have these 3 blocks that immediately popped up, and you're going to see I have some attributed text, but you'll notice that I can't actually see what the attributes are. Okay, again, when I do the block count and insert the table, it's just going to tell me I have 3 PCs. It's not going to tell me that I have 3 PCs or a PC with this attribute tag. Again, we have to use data extraction to get that information. Now, when I look at this square table here, you're going to see that I have 1 square table here, but one of the things that it does, if I click on this little yellow triangle, it's going to tell me that it thinks that these columns here are exploded blocks. They're actually not. So this is one of those things that we need to talk about with that count variable that we are going to go back to, is that it's showing us exploded blocks, but I know these aren't exploded blocks, right? And we go back to our list and we do the same thing with table, and you're going to see that it thinks that I have 3 blocks here, 3 tables, those are the green, and then it shows 6 renamed blocks. And actually these blocks are different blocks, but it's actually picking up the geometry and thinking it's pretty close, and so then it flags that internally. The other thing I want to show you here is that I've got 6 dynamic blocks in here, and then if I expand out this tree's imperial, you'll actually see that I see the view state of each of those. Right, all making sense so far? And so create a table, we click on this table up here. We can tell it to either create a table for everything. Can you specifically include or exclude layers when utilizing the count feature? No, it's all or nothing, or in some cases when you launch the count command, we can either select the entire drawing or we can only select certain objects. We can do both of those. For dynamic blocks, the count palette, does it show visibility states or only the ones that appear in the drawing? It's only going to show what I have here in the drawing. So this is the same tree imperial that I've used 6 times and changed the view state, and it's showing me the 6 different view states. So when I click on this table and insert the table, and zoom in, you're going to see that it shows me that tree imperial, and it shows me the view state here is a palm, a shrub, type 1 evergreen, things like that. It does not include XREFs, but it will include nested blocks. Are you able to use, let's see, what if the layers are frozen? Will it count the blocks on the frozen layer? Well, let's find out. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is we're just going to go ahead and close our count, come back here, right? And you're going to see that I have these objects here on a miscellaneous. I'm just going to go ahead and freeze the miscellaneous layer. And then I'm going to come back to my view. I'm going to restart our account. And you'll see that those frozen items disappear from my count list. So it will not count blocks on frozen. Now, if I come back here and just simply turn this off, it will also not count them if they're turned off. So you can either freeze or turn off the layer that has those blocks and they will not be counted. See, and you'll see as I toggle this on or off, that turns on and disappears. Count should be available in LT, Robert. Let's see, question, our old enemy, the copy paste is a block. Oh, hang on, we're gonna, or will it be flagged with the anonymous name? So let's do this. Let me just draw a rectangle like this. Let me go ahead and cut this. Let me Control-Shift-V, let me paste it. And what do you know? $C for a pasted block, or paste as a block, and it's there. The table, does it update in real time? It does not update, it will update the count, but it will not update the number of items or the item itself until you've erased it and reinserted. Right, so if I've got if I've got a square table here of 1, and I make a copy of this square table, right? You'll see that it now still shows 1, square table of 1. If I regen all, now it shows 2, and it shows no imperial trees because that is still off. The palette updates in real time. So as you're doing things or adding things, like I've got this new $C that I created from just this object. So this is one of those things that we're going to talk about, right? We're going to go back to the presentation here real quick, and we're going to talk about this count check. This is where the count check comes into play. So this is one of the things that I usually like to do is count check. By default is set to 2. If I set this to 1, and I close, right? I come back to view and count. You'll see all of those exclamation marks disappear. All right, let's see, the table does not update in real time. You have to delete and rebuild the table. If you've added or deleted blocks, it will update the count after a regen all. Let's see, will the count if you array a block? Well, that's a good question. Right, so if we just simply come in here and I do a simple rectangular array, you'll see that it absolutely updates. Is there a variable to disable the count check? No, just if you don't want to use the count, don't use it. There's no variable to disable the count check, but you can turn off what it does and doesn't count. So that count check, just so you understand right here, the count check system variable checks for duplicate objects that overlap on each other only, or it will check for duplicate objects that overlap, anything that's renamed, or anything that it picks up as exploded. So I just want to make you aware of that. I usually like to run it as 1, so it's only picking overlapping blocks, blocks that are copied on top of each other. Otherwise, you're going to get a lot of miscellaneous triangles in here that don't make sense. Okay, and you'll see array works, the whole thing works. Now, any other questions? That's a lot of stuff in here. All right, let's see. Did I miss anything in here? Will we be able to use count can for general multi-line text? No. Count only works for blocks, period. Only blocks. Let's see, turn off layers. For dynamic blocks and comp palette, does it show all visibility states, or it only shows the ones that appear in the drawing? How does the account handle anonymous blocks, unnamed blocks from clipboard, and other things like proxy entities and bound xref? Okay, it's going to ignore proxy entities and anything bound xrefs. If you've bound an xref and it has the bound block names, you will see all of those block names in here. Anonymous blocks, that one I haven't worked with yet because I haven't actually run across a drawing yet that has an anonymous block, one of the U star blocks. Unnamed blocks, or the A star and the U star, but any of the $C from a copy and paste does get picked up. Does this pick up blocks in paper space? Well, see, I'm in model space right now, so if I come over here to paper space and I paste the block in paper space, right, and I restart my count, it only picks up the stuff, right? So I've got a desk here. If I delete the desk, the count doesn't change. So it is only picking up the objects in model space, because notice I have a title block here that is not being picked up at all in this count list. So it is only going to count model space. All right, Civil 3D, if we use a custom block in a pipe network, will the count show the total blocks in and out of the network? That I'm not sure of. I have not run Civil 3D yet to see what the count does in that. All right. Dynamic blocks become anonymous when a dynamic property is invoked. So you're saying it won't count those? It will count those if you're changing a visibility state. The dynamic property, if there is a block name associated to it, even if it's anonymous, it should be picked up. Count in paper space will not count anything. It will not count anything in an xref. Well, let's see. If I explode a leader, will the count pick up on the arrowhead? That is going to depend on whether or not the arrowhead is a block object. If it is, most likely it'll get picked up. Wow. All right, we'll come back to count. I just want to keep moving on here. So we have a new feature called Trace. Trace provides a safe space to collaborate on drawing changes with the AutoCAD web and mobile apps only, okay? And you can use those without fear of altering the existing drawing. The analogy of the trace is a virtual collaborative tracing paper that's laid over the drawing, allowing collaborators to add feedback right in the drawing. Think of old school onion skin. Yeah, I know I just dated myself, but think of onion skin. If those of you that have ever done manual drafting or have used onion skin, you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about. So create traces in the web and mobile apps, then send or share the drawings to collaborators so they can view the trace in the contents. Okay, trace opens and manages traces from the command prompt. Trace back displays the host drawing with full saturation while dimming the trace. Trace front displays the active trace with full saturation, dimming the host drawing in the background. Trace palette closed, trace palette open, and some new system variables here. Again, control displays the name of the active trace when trace mode is 1 or 2. Trace display mode indicates whether the tracing paper effect is displayed front or back. Trace fade control controls the amount of fading. Trace mode indicates whether or not the trace is active and which mode is current, editing or viewing. Trace O-snap controls whether or not object snaps apply to trace geometry. I know, Jim. Trust me, I've been doing this a long time. So when people talk onion skin, yeah, VC block count still works. Is a trace savable? We'll talk about that. So trace palette state, trace paper control. Then we're going to just do a brief demonstration here. So what I've done here is that I actually have my AutoCAD web and mobile sitting right here, right? This is just my web.autocad.com. They are not blocks or drawings. It's a fundamental difference in how things are handled. So you'll notice here that my AutoCAD Web and Mobile, I can connect to Autodesk Docs or BIM 360, Autodesk Drive, Box, Dropbox, OneDrive, Google Drive. Okay, so when I open my count example here, right, all I'm doing right now is opening up my count example, and I'm going to show you how this works. How is the new trace feature different from the line extraction and raster tools? All right, the trace feature is non-destructive, and it does nothing more other than show what something. So over here in the AutoCAD for Web, you've got a trace. We click on trace, and I can click on new trace. And then I can come in here in my AutoCAD Web and Mobile, and I can go ahead and I can draw a circle, right, here. And I can put a piece of text with this, right? And I can say, you know, rotate desk, things like that. No, I want to put a piece of text in, right here to here. Come on. This stupid thing. There, now it'll let me pick something. Right, it should let me pick a piece of text here. Because I've done this already, where I come in here and I draw, all right. Change to different desk, right? That's a multi-leader. This is just being really persnickety today. There we go, right? And we're gonna say, change to, why am I not getting this? Anyways, I actually put a piece of text in here already with a trace, right? I came in here, I added add chairs around this table, right? That's all I've done in here. I'm gonna go ahead and save, right? So we're gonna go ahead and go back to properties, right? Draw, trace, close the trace, right? Now I'm out of trace mode. I can save the drawing, right? And then I can turn around and either open in desktop from here, or if I have that drawing synced to my here, you'll see that I have, these are local files. This is my cloud file. So if I open up my count example here, first thing it's going to do is it's going to retrieve the drawing I just saved from the cloud and open it up. Why am I getting that? I should be able to get this. Oh, that's because I need to close the drawing. All right, let's go ahead and close. Now let's see if it'll let me retrieve the drawing. All right. Why is it not letting me retrieve the drawing? Because normally I can come in here, I can open up my drawing, because I just had this open. That's frustrating. All right, so if I come back in here, we're going to open up the count. Right, and I should be able to see my trace. Where is that? Will AutoCAD ever support SharePoint Cloud Storage? That I don't know. Web and mobile can be used by users without AutoCAD installed? Yes. Can markups from a trace be imported using the markup manager, as in DWF design review program? No. Will trace work with AutoCAD products like Civil 3D or just AutoCAD? It will always be part of the AutoCAD core engine, so it should always still be part of our standard AutoCAD core, which means it should be available in Civil 3D. Right, so why can I not get to my trace? Right, that's under Collaborate. Get back here. Why is this not working today? Collaborate, trace. Because this drawing does not want to open from the cloud, and I just had this working. Fine, I'm gonna do this the hard way then. Bear with me, let's go back to my right, new features trace. Let me do this, let me do this. All right, let's go. And I apologize, this was all working when I put all this stuff together. And now it does not want to do that because I wanted to show you the trace palette. All right, sign in. So as long as someone has an Autodesk account, they can, or they have an Autodesk account and they're at least assigned an AutoCAD software package, they should be able to use the AutoCAD in the web. All right, we're gonna do it my way then. Okay, we're gonna go to the count example and we're gonna do it my way then. So the web interface for AutoCAD is a little wonky. It's great for markups. It is not anything I would ever use. Let's see if I'm going to retry opening in the desktop and see if it will actually open in my desktop. There we go. Now you can see my traces. I just had to do this a little differently. So if I click on trace one, it's going to show me my trace. So here's that circle where it says add chairs because it wants me to add some chairs, right? This is a great tool for marking up. And again, this is non-destructive, right? And I can see that this is my other trace right here. So this would be great for something like a punch list if you're using the Autodesk web and mobile or web app or the mobile app on like an iPad, a tablet of some kind. This is a great way to provide feedback without actually altering. Does trace provide freehand sketching? Again, when we are talking about the trace, you only have these. You'll see that you have your standard draw rectangles, circles, arcs, splines, X lines, regular lines, polylines, but you see that you don't have a sketch option. Can you export a trace to send to a consultant? Does the trace stay with the drawing forever? Can the trace be erased and deleted? If I want to erase the trace, I can come in here and I have to delete it from the web interface, right? So if I come into trace 2 and since trace 2 is active, right, I need to close trace and I should be able to delete trace 2. Now it's deleted. Can AutoCAD use an iPad Pro 12 LiDAR to scan an outdoor space? That's a completely WIF or PDFs generated from AutoCAD. Nope, trace is only for AutoCAD DWGs. So that's pretty much all trace is it's just more or less an option for you to see what's going on. And again, I can change that. Here's my trace in the background, but you'll notice that this trace right here, if I look at my properties, this will actually show up as a trace. It is not line work. It's not anything else I can do. Again, it is nothing more than intended to be a collaborative tool for you to see what somebody wants changed or where there may be a problem. Sorry, that was complicated today. Can it be sent to a printer? Nope. A trace is nothing more than just basic. It can't be sent to a printer. It can't be, and it does not print. Looks like you don't have a status on the markup. right? I can close, rename, and I can delete, well, I can delete the traces from here. But if I go to print this, it will print it. How do you clear it? Right, I click on this one and I click delete and it deletes my trace. And again, you can turn these on or off if you want. If I turn off the trace palette, that trace over here disappears, or I can delete it. All right, complicated stuff. So there's new feature. Next new feature we're going to talk about is share, where you can share a link to a copy of the current drawing to view or edit in the AutoCAD web app. All related drawing XREFs and images are included. It works similar to eTransmit in AutoCAD, your standard AutoCAD desktop. What family is 20? Yeah, it's still 2022 is still a 2018 DWG format, Ricky. The shared file includes all related dependent files. Anyone with the link can access the drawing in the web app. Right, and I apparently started a sentence here and forgot about it. So the new command is share. You'll find it under the collaborate and share. Shares a link to a copy of the current drawing, includes drawing XREFs and images. And anyone with the link can access the drawing in the AutoCAD web app. The link expires 7 days after it's created. How would I get the AutoCAD web app? Okay, if you have subscription software and you have AutoCAD or anything that includes AutoCAD assigned to you, you have access to the web app. It's just web.autocad.com. Sign in with your Autodesk account, takes you right in. Does trace share? If you pass that drawing or share that drawing with someone, the trace will come with. So when you write the link expires 7 days after it's created, you can choose between two permission levels. You can give them the option to view only, or you can allow them to edit and save a copy. Do you need a subscription to save to the web? You need an Autodesk account to save to the web. If you have the subscription, then you'll have access to the web software, even if it's multi-user or named user, as long as you're assigned a license. All right, so we've got our account example here. I'm going to share the drawing. Again, I just clicked on collaborate. I click share drawing. If I give view only and I copy the link and preview, this is what they're going to get. All right, we're going to go right into that drawing. Should take me right in and it'll show me. Does the file need to be saved in the cloud for the link to work for an outside consultant? Nope. The file does not need, well, the file will be saved in the cloud when you share, and then it's deleted after 7 days. I'm curious as to how long we are going to have AutoCAD around, being the fact that my company, right? So right here, you're going to see that this is a view only, right? All of my draw commands and everything are grayed out. I can't make any changes in here, but I can view this drawing in an AutoCAD web format. Does the recipient have to have AutoCAD with the share? No, right? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to edit and save a copy, copy that link, come back in here. Now we're going to open this up. And the editor, can you change the number of days to 7 to a month or something? No, by default, it's 7 days and 7 days only. From here, you can trace and save the drawing. Yes. How is this different from shared view in 2021? The fact is that this is a slightly different thing in the fact that now if I share, like I did here with edit and save a copy, whoever I send this link to can open this up in AutoCAD in the web, and they can actually make changes to this drawing. So if I click on here, I can actually move this table if I want. I can do anything, and when I save this, I can do a save as, but I can't save it. I can do a save as, save my changes, and then I will be notified that somebody has basically saved and made the changes. I can go in and see what those changes are. And again, they can also do trace. So if you give them the edit option, you can have them go in and trace over what they want or include any of their comments, things like that. That's the big difference from shared views. All you're doing with a shared view in 2021 is you're just sharing the view. You're not giving them any editing capability. This actually gives you the option to allow them to either view it only, which is exactly like the shared views, or you can edit and save a copy so they can actually make changes. All right, let's get back to here. So the last new feature we're going to talk about is push to Autodesk Docs. Want to be very clear, this is a subscription benefit only. You have to have a collection in order to get Autodesk Docs. However, just so you know, if you already have BIM 360, push to Autodesk Docs will allow you to push to BIM 360 instead. It'll give you the option. So when you push to Autodesk Docs, allow teams to view digital PDFs in the field for reference. Use push to Autodesk Docs to upload AutoCAD drawings as PDFs to a specific project. So as an example, I did the sheets to upload. It gave me, these are the sheets I could upload. I upload sheets, I pick where I want to go. Right, when you collaborate in the field by pushing your drawing out as PDFs, select layouts from multiple drawings, upload them as PDFs, and it will appear in the project folder. So new commands, push to doc open, opens the push to Autodesk Docs palette where you can select the AutoCAD layouts. Push to docs close, closes it. Push to doc state indicates whether the push to Autodesk palette is open or closed. And this one's a fairly straightforward one. Again, we're going to come back to this, no trace. I go push to Autodesk Docs. Now, mind you, I do not have Autodesk Docs, and you'll see that it picked up all of my current open drawings right here. So if I'm going to push just this no trace A sized, I click upload sheets. And the first thing it should do is ask me to select. So I actually have a BIM 360. I have two different BIM 360 sites I have. Do you need a project open in order to push to docs? Where is it pushing to? That's going to be a separate conversation. We'll talk about that just in a bit. So I can push that to the shared. And now it's pushed this PDF to the shared. All right, so do you need a project open? You have to have at least one project and have set up your Autodesk Docs site in order to push to Autodesk Docs. I believe there was a webinar on Tuesday that talked all about Autodesk Docs. Correct me if I'm wrong, Lori, and I don't know where that webinar is, but that would be an important one to know. Autodesk Docs is not the same as BIM 360. They have not been renamed. BIM 360 has more capabilities and more functionality than Autodesk Docs. Okay, BIM 360, look at Autodesk Docs as being the child of BIM 360. BIM 360 is a much more full-featured suite of project stuff. Let's see. Wow, you guys are just bombarding me with lots of questions today. Are there any changes, improvements from AutoCAD raster design? Nope. Raster design has been unchanged literally since 2013. Push to docs include hybrid drawings. Anything you push to docs is pushing a PDF. Just remember that. You're not pushing the drawings, you're pushing only the PDF. For the share function, we use AEC objects for doors and windows. Most of our consultants seem to have issues viewing those. We currently e-transmit. Does share have a similar function? Again, when you're sharing the drawing here, you're giving them the ability to look at your drawings inside a web browser, which means it will view that information correctly and they can make changes and send back. You're not sending them a live DWG. Does push to docs work with sheet sets? No, it only works here where you can add multiple sheets. This is going to be very similar to publish, right? I click to add sheets, I open up drawings, I add multiple sheets to here. It does not work with a sheet set. So Autodesk Docs is just what offered as BIM 360 document management, or is not the same. It is not the same functionality. It is similar, but it is not the same program.
I just added we just finished the recording for that. The invite hasn't even gone out for people who attended, but it's in the link. So if anybody goes to chat, there's a link in there, and that was an introduction to Autodesk Docs.
Perfect, thank you. Thank you for finding that, Lori. All right, can you push to doc combine plan sets? you have to open up each drawing to send it as a PDF. The PDF that pushes from model space or paper space, it's paper space only at this time. All right, so it's pretty easy. Again, I have BIM 360. I don't have Autodesk Docs, but I can publish these PDFs up to BIM 360, and you can choose where you're pushing to. Let's close out of that, and now let's start going further on. So one of the big enhancements is you can now drag a file tab off of AutoCAD application window, making it a separate window. Some of the benefits of the floating drawing tab are you can open up multiple drawing files that can be visible at the same time without switching between tabs, and one or more drawing files can be moved to another monitor. Right, this is very useful if you're doing a comparison between two drawings where you can pull that off. Now, new system variable sys floating controls the doc state of drawing file tabs. Here's a big note. It is not anywhere that Autodesk has mentioned, but I want to make sure that you understand this. If you have monitors or screens with different resolutions and scaling, the floating window will maintain the scaling from where AutoCAD was launched. It's a known behavior, so be aware of it. So what that means is if you go from a 4K monitor at 200% scaling to a high def monitor at 100%, you will need to resize the floating window to fit. Also, no toolbars, ribbon, or menus follow the floating tab. So what I mean by that is if I pull this all the way over here and I grab this tab and simply drag it out, it becomes its own separate drawing window. I can move this to another screen, but if I move this to another screen, it will maintain scaling. When I dragged it over, I've played around with this and had a hard time getting it to do what I wanted it to do. And because I have different scaling set up, it just disappeared off my screen. There it is. I have had issues with it not rescaling correctly. So just be aware. You may be able to do that. And the reason why I say that is if we look at my display settings, just so you understand, I have one monitor here that is 1920 by 1080, and it's 100% scaling. And I have a second monitor here. The monitor that you're all looking at is an ultra high def, one of those 4K monitors, and it has 200% scaling. So when I drag stuff back and forth, I sometimes lose it. Sometimes it does not correctly scale down, and I've had some issues with that. So just be aware, right? You want to drag it back, you just click it back in, it returns back to the floating window. Right, that one's pretty easy. Okay, the next enhancement, redesign start tab. So the second window, how do you get the menus display? You can't. All you're doing is dragging that DWG window out, right? So if I drag this over right here, right? I have access to all my regular commands, but I won't have any menus, any toolbars in this window. Everything is going to be run from the primary window. So your edit is still the same, right? Still have to come over here. I can move, right? I can still do things in it, but all of my stuff is going to be on the primary monitor. So original menu from original screen can be applied to second. Nope. When I have this dragged out, it is by itself and it will not have any of your interface stuff. Is there any way to tell which window is active and will take controls from the menu? Yeah, you know where your crosshairs are. That's the one. Keyboards command work. Everything works as long as it's your active one, right? Let's come back here, right? I'm over here. Again, I don't have anything, but I'm active in this one, right? And I can use my keyboard commands to erase. I can undo. I can do everything here. If I come back over here, right? This one's no longer active because my crosshairs don't show up. This one is. Keyboard commands, everything works in here. You just don't have any user interface stuff immediately. So if you drag this off to a second monitor and you're primarily a ribbon user, you're going to have to come over to where the ribbon is, click line, and now I can draw a line. right? And I can drag it back, put it back where I want it, and boom. All right, so let's see, customized command can be used in, yeah, anything can be used in the second window. You just won't have any of the interface pieces for it. You will only see the drawing. You won't have a command line in the second window. You won't have ribbon. You won't have toolbars. All right, Start tab was redesigned to provide a consistent welcome experience for Autodesk products. Resume work, continue working where you left off. In other words, basically open up your drawing, begin new work, start something new from blank slate, learn and engage. So right here, the redesigned Start tabs. So Autodesk Docs. If you don't have Autodesk Docs, or if you do have it installed, or if you have access to it and you have projects set up, same with BIM 360, and you want to access the docs, you have to install the desktop connector. And I'll show you what happens, or we'll go through that here real quick. All right, so when we come back to the Start tab, you'll see I have Autodesk Docs. If I click on this, right, my Autodesk, oh, that would be why my desktop connector is currently turned off, right? And it says, how do I start the desktop connector? If I have it not running, which I do not normally run Autodesk, or I don't normally run the desktop connector, it says how to start, or it will show me my information here. Desktop connector. Let's go ahead and start this. That's why I couldn't retrieve anything. So that's my fault. Forgot I turned that off. Let's see if I can get this to trigger. Yep, it's launching right here. There's my desktop connector. Once my desktop connector comes up, I should be able to refresh and it will bring me up to my drawings. But again, this is a very, this looks a little new. You've got your what's new community forum here. There is a, under recent, when I come back up here, let me move this out of the way briefly. You'll see you having a little announcements over here. So you can actually see all the announcements that appear in here, right? Here's my connect. Here's your send feedback if you want to send feedback on products. And again, I can click that to minimize it so it's not constantly in my way. Now when I go to Autodesk Docs, it'll refresh. Is there any reason why you would want to turn off the Autodesk Desktop Connector? We leave this on all the time. Personal preference. Since I do a lot of support stuff, normally I leave my desktop connector off unless I'm trying to troubleshoot a desktop connector issue, because it does have some impact on some products depending on what's going on. But you'll see right here, I have access to my BIM 360 hub and my 2 projects, right? Now, again, this is BIM 360, this is not Autodesk Docs. If I had Autodesk Docs installed and running, when I click here, I would have the ability to see my BIM 360 hub. I would also see an Autodesk Docs hub here. Will start mode still work to avoid the new Start tab? If yes, it will. That hasn't changed. You can still turn it off if you don't like it. Okay. So you'll see that there's a slight difference between 2021 and 2022. It's not huge, but it's enough that this 2022 should look and feel more like other products in the AutoCAD realm, right? And when we're in the Start tab here, if you don't like the list view, you also have a grid view where it'll show you grid. Again, this will be very similar to what you see in Revit anymore, where you see the little projects things. Inventor, same thing. So this is to try and bring this more forward to have it look more common and similar across the Autodesk product lines. Now, this is an enhancement, and wow, we are really running out of time. So let me go through this real quick. This release includes a technical preview of a new cross-platform 3D graphics system that they are being developed for AutoCAD. It leverages the power of more modern GPUs, multi-core CPUs to offer a smoother navigation experience for much larger drawings. The technical preview is off by default. When turned on, the modern graphics system takes over viewports using the shaded visual style. If you're working in 2D, 3D, anything other than shaded visual, you will not notice a difference. Modern graphics may eventually replace the 3D graphics system. However, before Autodesk finalizes this change, please test it. If you guys use shaded visual style, see how it works. If you have feedback about missing functionality that you can't live without, encounter bugs, experiences, anything like that, please make sure if you are a member of the beta programs, put feedback in at feedback.autodesk.com, get logged in. Otherwise, go to this link. This is our product feedback link. It's going to be an important link for later. I'm going to try and get to that before we run out of time. And because this is a technical preview, details and functionality are subject to change at any time. First thing you got to do is the modern graphics system requires a DirectX capable, right? Direct 3D DDI has to be 12, feature level has to have 11_0. That's from the dxdiag command. This is actually my machine. You'll see that I meet the technical minimums, at least. 3D Tech Preview is the system variable, specifies whether or not the 3D Technical Preview is turned on or off. When you put in 3D Technical Preview, turn it on, you have to close Restart AutoCAD for it to take effect. You will now see shaded in parentheses GSF. That means that we're on the new graphical system. Here's what I looked at. Here's a typical drawing. This is with the Tech Preview off. This is the standard shaded. This is with the Tech Preview on with the shaded GSF. You will notice that there was a clear quality difference where the Technical Preview on did not do a good job. Okay. And again, I've already sent this drawing over to Autodesk. I've already showed them that this is a problem, but just be aware if you don't get the results you want, make sure that you provide that feedback. Okay, there are some limitations with this graphics system. Doesn't support raster, doesn't support true type text, wide line support, ray or X lines, line types and patterns, fence and lasso selection, block editor. So basically, this is the bare bones of working with this one. So just be aware of it. And again, right, that's that. So now we're going to talk about the install. This is the elephant in the room that I'm hoping we can get through here pretty quickly. Couple of things here. Starting with the 2022, we have a new installation type and process. Okay, the standard download and install now has limited choices and no options for customization. If you need to customize an install or create a deployment package like you've done in the past, you download the installer, you run it, you click create deployment, all of that's gone. Okay, all of that customization now needs to be done via the Autodesk portal. As an FYI for you, if you have feedback on this new installation process, make sure you go to this product feedback and bombard them with the fact that you don't like it or you love it. Standard install. So here's AutoCAD Architecture 2022. Here's my standard installer, typical standalone behavior. You'll notice these are the only two screens I get. I have nowhere where I can modify any paths, do any work here in order to change my custom. Right? When I run this, I get AutoCAD Architecture with all the out-of-the-box defaults. So I'm going to get the global, the metric, the US Imperial shortcuts, and that's pretty much it. I have no options, nothing. So you can't run a deployment from here. So basically, when you start it up, the first thing it does is end user license agreement, brings you to where do you want to install, adds any additional components, starts the installer. So the other thing is the Autodesk uninstall tool doesn't work in 2022. You have to launch the installer and select uninstall from that tool to uninstall the software. So I rerun it and I either get exit or uninstall. Rob, just trust me. Those of us that have been doing this a long time complain very bitterly about this. Right? If you have any verticals and don't install the content packs for like electrical, mechanical, you have to uninstall and reinstall it to get about options. There's no repair, Mike. It is uninstall only. You have to uninstall and reinstall it. When you go to Control Panel and Programs and Features and double click on your installed software, Modify is gone. This is my AutoCAD 2022. I double clicked on it in Control Panel and I have the option to exit or uninstall. Right? So if I did the install now, download now, browser download process, it's going to be the exact same for Plant 3D. All Autodesk software for 2022 now use this installer method. So we'll go here real quick, right? Here's my, just going to launch my electrical 2022, or sorry, here is my, let's run this as an admin, right? Yes, Kevin, this PowerPoint is going to be available as a PDF, right? I just launched the AutoCAD Architecture 2022 installer. Again, we agree to the license agreement. I choose where to install. I can either put the AutoCAD performance reporting tool or not, and I can start the installer. Okay, that's it. Got nothing. Control O at the start screen is their way to browse through windows like before. Mine opens a command line. File DIA equal, you got to set that to 1 in order to get your file dialog to pop up, David. Installation fails any time. I can't find any logs to find out why it fails. John, I'm getting to that. All right, this is your customized install. This we do through your Autodesk account. So when you come into your Autodesk account under Home, Product Services, you'll see Custom Install. As an FYI, you can migrate toolbars after it's installed. As an FYI, this will use the Install Now type of installer, so be aware you may have issues downloading the software successfully. Also, if you guys have been using SCCM standard deployment where you remove the items you don't want from the text file, it is not supported for 2022. It's all or nothing. Lastly, if you have issues downloading, installing via this method, you will need to harvest the logs from %local app data %/Autodesk/ODIS is where those logs are. That's your install logs, John. That's where you're going to find out what's failing. And then we need to send those to us and or Autodesk, and then we can figure out why it's failing. The Express tools are installed by default, Jeff. So right here, when we come in here, you select your product. So think of this now as a suite installer, right? Those of us that had suites in the past loved them. When we got collections, realized now we have to install all of the components individually. Now we can create a custom install that's going to have everything. I don't recommend it just because the technology here is still a little flaky, but you can certainly try it. I've had some customers work perfectly. I've had some customers who cannot get this to work. So you go into your custom install, you select your product. As soon as you select your product, it's going to ask which version. It's also going to ask you what type of install you're going to do. For example, I'm serial number and product key, so I would see that here. You can customize the product installation. You can go ahead and put all of the information in here. Again, this should look very similar to what we had previously with the create deployment. Now we have to do it all through the web interface. The other thing about the web interface is that if you have third-party programs that you've added under third-party when you do the installer, those do not work either. There's no place to put third-party, so you have to run those separately. So you modify your installation, you go through here. When you click OK to confirm all your data is good, you can decide whether or not you're going to do an install for local user, or you can do a deployment method. Again, when you do deployment, all of that's going to come in and it's going to request your server name, etc. And then it will download an executable file that you'll launch. And then it will, once you've launched it, it will download all the necessary files for the installation of the software that you picked and put it in that custom location. And then we'll allow you to run it from there. Do a quick demo here. Right, so I come in here, right? I have my custom install, and this is only for 2022. It's going to tell me all my products here, right? So you select the license type. Again, I'm just going to go ahead and select serial number. I'm going to go ahead and select just plain AutoCAD, right? Here's latest version. I can pick a specific version. Again, these are both 2022. right? And I can customize the product registration, go into my customization. So this is where I can use local user profiles, custom folders. I can lock security settings, trusted domains, exclude the start in and drawing folders, right? If I'm going to install Express Tools, it's here, etc. Now, if I were to uncheck this and go to mechanical, because this is the big one that we seem to run into the most problems with. Your customizations here is that the standard content libraries to install is everything. If you don't need everything, uncheck what you don't need. You can also pick which one you're going to get as your default. Everything that you see checked here is what is going to get installed if you don't do this. When you just do the standard download and install, this is exactly what is going to get installed. So you're going to have everything. Is it still called Civil 3D 2022? Yes. Installing like you are, will it always give you the most current updates? It will give you the option for the most current updates when you build this, right? So I've got the latest version here. You will always have the option. However, when you have additional updates, you'll have to go through the custom install process again to get a newer version, or you have to apply the updates either through the desktop app or download and manually install those. That's pretty much it. Wow, we really took a lot of time here, and I do apologize. So